Will a fifth one come out here from Clutch Gaming to pinch that pool down even further? Because both these guys, you can tell, are heavily focused on that mid, and there it is.
There it is. The Azir does get taken away. First pick over the Jace with 20 seconds left. That Galio, however, still on the board. powerOfEvil is going to take safety to the mid lane and for the team globally.
Yep, Galio saw a bit of a resurgence. People started building an AP again after it surged again in the LCK. It was played a bit, I believe, on the Demacia Cup.
Yep.
But now it's really made its way into North America. Combines incredibly well with things like Camille and Jarvan, and even Zac to start team fights off. Rakan is another one that's near the top of the table for helping the Galio get in. But now he's mostly a semi-AP mid laner. We saw Bjergsen actually build a Rod of Ages and a Morelos, whereas normally the build includes something like Abyssal Mask afterwards, where you really do buy one AP item and then start moving in. There's the Camille that we were talking about.
Also had that in Academy as well, a little bit more of a damage-doing build, if you will. The Camille does get locked in, so it goes by the Gnar and Ezreal pick again for Apollo here. He says, remember what I did on this? And they get two good picks for themselves, but it is going to be the Braum and the Camille. Two great pickups here for OpTic Gaming in the first three of the phase one.
And I'm interested to see what happens with this Camille, because one of my big criticisms of Zig as a player is that he never played Camille ever. Back when he was on Phoenix 1, he was kind of forcing his team to ban it, even on blue or red side when she was OP. It didn't matter. It was taking up a ban. And when I check his history right here, he has 0 Camille games across his entire career. So I wonder if this is just going to Akaadian in the jungle here, or if it is going to Zig in the top lane, and he has picked up that champion, because that would definitely check a box that before was a criticism that I had of Zig.
Interesting. He is somebody that absorbs in the top lane, so he'd have to be careful if he does get a killer champion to go in. Will be as tanky with that aggression he usually finds on his top side of the map. Cassio versus Galio. First time both of these players have taken this champion into NALCS, so they're kind of going off of their list that they've had so far. Febiven on Cassio, and powerOfEvil gets that Galio as we're in ban phase 2 here. Twitch Tarek, another AD carry figure for Arrow, but he does have a Barret possibility coming in.
Yeah.
And the Tarek with one left for OpTic Gaming.
But the Cassiopeia for Febiven is going to struggle if the Camille plus the Galio get in onto her and just have that combination. The Thunderdome comes down. And I'm really kind of interested to see what the rest of Clutch Gaming's draft looks like. They are going to want something to protect them from having that engage jump down. So maybe a Tahm Kench would be what it comes out here for Hakuho.
I do like it.
Yeah, the Skarner ban towards LirA. His Skarner yesterday was very interesting, and this would be a interesting pick here for Hakuho.
I like this, because I always liked Hakuho when he was kind of aggressive on his trundle picks and whatnot in the support position. It was a little harder, so I feel like Shen fits right in his wheelhouse.
Shen also allows him to play towards the top side of the map, so if you have an aggressive matchup for Solo, Solo can go ahead and bully and not worry too much about ganks. But this also gives them a way to match things like Galio going to the side lane and have somebody show up. So I like this pick for him.
Ooh. Lots of pop-ups and knockups now. They deliver the Glacial Fissure. You got Camille bouncing in, Galio with the entrance, and who now? Do they lock in for a possible top or jungle? We're still waiting to sort that out, and it is going to be
It'll be a top
for the fight. Absolutely.
A top lane Camille, the first one for Zig in his entire career.
Pressure is on him a little bit to perform, but more of, I wouldn't say a damage dealer. We know the guy for playing Flad, for playing a lot of cool things on the top side, so he knows kind of those boundaries, but will he know his Camille boundaries? We get a last lock in here as well. Kha'Zix for LirA in the jungle, so he can stay aggressive.
Yeah, but that means Akaadian on that tank jungler here. Good front line for OpTic Gaming. They're going to look for a lot of damage from powerOfEvil, but the thing is this matchup, you want to buy Adaptive Helm, possibly Abyssal Mask right off the bat, against the Cassiopeia to reduce her damage. So then a lot of your damage comes from Arrow's Kalista, which is more of a mid, early game champion, and then you have the Camille that needs to scale here. So if he's not building AP in mid lane, they have a distinct lack of magic damage on this team composition, whereas Clutch have really diverse lanes here in terms of the damage they'll be dealing.
Either team looking for their first 2-0 week coming in. Get the matchup of powerOfEvil and Febiven here. And their history throwback, we'll see who can start off the NALCS record for themselves. As as they get into it. Febiven kind of had the upper hand in this matchup in the history over powerOfEvil. We'll see if that continues. Hashtag OPT win, hashtag CG win as we get on to the Rift for our last game of the day here in week 4. It's going fast. Yeah, it's going fast, and teams aren't having a lot of time to recoup and figure new things out. It's how well are you doing right now?
Exactly, and right now, these two mid laners are killing it. Febiven, highest kill participation on his team, 83.7. A lot doesn't happen without Febiven involved. Whereas powerOfEvil, highest on his team, 82.7. So they are right there neck and neck, and the action will most likely revolve around that mid lane.
OpTic versus Clutch Gaming. We are on to the Rift for our last game of the day. Let's see who gets the victory. The first 2-0 week for one of these squads, and somebody has to go away with that loss. Pretty even starts, or I should say orthodox starts here from either side. Not too many stopwatches this game. Just 2 on each side.
We're doing it! The stopwatches are getting out of there!
What's happening? And we have the shields on the top side for a little bit of that defense and help.
Yep, I like the Camille runes right now. The Comet is fantastic for her. A lot of people were saying, you know, maybe press the attack or something like that, but the precision tree just isn't as appealing. The Comet going down sorcery gives you that extra AD to help you last hit, whereas attack speed doesn't do much for her. And then Resolve Secondary allows you to survive matchups with things like Second Wind or even the Iron Skin to deal with the Gnar early on.
Minions have spawned.
Slow checks with Mystic shots everywhere from Twisted Fate Ezreal.
Try to get some gold. It's Kleptomancy. If you throw out a Q and you get a potion, you're like, boom, lane phase 1.
That's true. Imagine you get 2 or 3. Ooh. Getting crazy, getting crazy. We'll slow down. So that ward on red, they'll have a bit of information here on Akaadian to start things off. Not usually someone you see on the Sejuani, things that kind of hold back. Knows what to do.
Yeah, Akaadian had played the Jarvan and the Kha'Zix, as well as Rengar and Nunu, but he does have a Sejuani game against TSM back in week 2. So it's not, you know, it's interesting because I feel like all the junglers kind of play tanks at this point. It's not, it's more of the bruiser junglers that are the abnormality. So, Akaadian just playing the tank, just like, you know, Dardoch's playing Zac, being in charge of engage and being a playmaker.
And getting him on that as well, that was saying, hey, you want a Camille? Kalista was kind of left up there. They didn't prioritize that, but they definitely get in with that Camille on the top side, especially Galio to make sure powerOfEvil can get the fight. So that combo definitely meant something to them on the side of OpTic this game.
Yeah.
See if they can use it.
If everyone's going to go ward that little pixel brush off to the side, because they know that Akaadian started on the bottom side of the map, and that would lead his route towards the top, and would most of the time put him past that ward if he is going for a mid lane gank. It won't protect him top, but you can see that Solo put his ward down in the tri-brush to kind of protect from that happening as well.
Scuttles it up on the bottom side for LirA. He finally gets enough mana.
Ah, yes.
Woof.
Presence of mind. As soon as you level up as Cassiopeia, your mana bar turns white and you just go all in. It really does help her. It's absolutely an interesting change that happened with the runes Reforged, where people would take things like Corrupting Potion and then just E you down. Now, you can just Presence of Mind, E them down every time you level up. And it works out, even when Cassiopeia draws minion aggro now with the changes in you know, 8.2. Hasn't affected her at all. LirA getting bullied by LemonNation here.
I like the shield.
Still gets the smite, though. And Hakuho.
Interesting little invase in the jungle. Power in numbers keeps Clutch Gaming alive, and the fact that they know Akaadian is top keeps them a little safer here as we get slight parallel jungling going on.
Yeah, do have to watch out, though, because even though Akaadian is on the top side and they know a bit about it, Zig into this Gnar has ways to set up the gank, but Akaadian is just going to sit in the bush. He's actually going to back away so he doesn't get spotted there. They don't know. But Solo, you see, he actually doesn't go up to the bush to put the ward in. Decides that would be too risky, and instead just places it a little bit further, so we won't really get much information there, and his river is not warded at all.
Play it safe. Going to leap himself out, but he is getting a slight push on the lane if he keeps getting his boomerang to go through everything. 25's up there. Yeah, so everything's staying pretty safe. We just saw that teleport back in the lane for powerOfEvil. No, his Unsealed Spellbook is working perfectly, but Hakuho as well with the Unsealed Spellbook. We look for him to change as he gets throughout the game for that global pressure towards the middle part of the game.
He's definitely one of the best support users that I've seen. Him and Smoothie using the Unsealed Spellbook has been an absolute delight where they change it to match the situation. I remember his teleport with Ornn to the mid lane to just help turn around a fight. So Hakuho will have a bit of global pressure to match things like the Galio later, like you said.
So different. Unless you played against it, you don't really consider, because you think of what champion is coming in, what your positioning is, you have to hold flash, and when that's completely turned around in somebody else, it becomes such a huge play for your team. Really something that players are still getting used to, especially when you see the double unsealed spellbooks coming out from some bot lanes around the world. 5 minutes into this one, and pretty even CS around the board. Febiven doing well in the mid lane. Sees push powerOfEvil out with that teleport to start things off.
All right, now it looks like a little bit of a minor collapse here onto Akaadian. He spots the ward going down, so he knows they're in his jungle. But it would be just the Kha'Zix. But he's a level up.
He says, yeah, okay.
Does he trust this? He should know the Kha'Zix's damage output.
I don't know. For the consideration, Akaadian looked like he was kind of fronting back, saying, yeah, my team is coming, but they have vision on both mid and top.
Yeah.
So LirA knew he was safe. A few shots from Apollo, nice unbreakable as they get hits back under Spirit's Refuge. And a bit of a trade on both sides there, pretty even.
Super good taunt though, double taunt there from Hakuho to lock him up and give him some damage, but still, Kalista's early game is just really rough to deal with. And you can see LemonNation actually already took a back and swapped to teleport and TP'd into the lane there. So he doesn't have a combat summoner spell to really deal with an all-in from Clutch Gaming's bottom lane.
A little deep vision here, actually. Gonna play Scuttle, one of my favorite things to do. There's pressure from Akaadian. They saying, how long can we actually make this happen? We want to get Dragon involved. No, but I'll peel him up. Hakuho's just on the edge, and Febiven still has control over that mid lane. So I like what OpTic's thinking. Clutch Gaming isn't really buying into it.
Ooh, this might be a decent amount of damage. Cloud Break does hurt. Okay, even goes through the shield a bit. LirA up! Heals it up.
Get themselves to safety. Yeah. It's interesting, those kind of things, the Wind Drake, fast attack speed, more DPS, kind of what the Drakes have in their pocket.
Oh, Akaadian wrapped all the way around here. Does have the smite, takes it away.
Thank you very much.
He's almost 6.
He's gone.
You can see Akaadian at the bottom left corner of your screen is almost level 6 here, whereas LirA's still struggling to get to level 5. He'll get it off this camp, but they see him on it. And is Akaadian just going to wrap around? Okay. LirA knows not to do it, but he's just going to wait. Ah, so what LirA's doing is he's saying, okay, if he doesn't have a ward here, he would just come check and assume that I'm doing it. But he gets Hakuho to come kind of do a little bit of a bodyguarding here and make sure that he doesn't get invaded and have more camps stolen away.
Quick recon mission, good timing too. Arrow's gone back. They just kind of have support versus Apollo in the lane right now, even though he's low on mana. So expect that. Maybe a kind of disjointed back here would come from Clutch Gaming. If Hakuho needs to stay in lane, and we'll just see him get another rotation. This may be worked by Akaadian. Seeing that low mana bar means it is a very gankable Apollo.
And he hasn't backed yet.
Yeah, they decided to get out.
He hasn't backed yet, so he doesn't have items, which makes it very likely that you win that fight, especially with the Bilgewater Cutlass for the Kalista. Let's talk about this top lane for a second here, because confirmed that Zig does have Iron Skin and has a second wind, so it's to survive the matchup against the Gnar and have a little extra armor. And he rushes the Ninja Tabis immediately off the bat, which I think is what you should be doing against this Gnar matchup as Camille. And then you have the max of the E, of the hook shot, to turn the matchup and kind of keep up with him, have that low cooldown, because Gnar does not max leap until final skill up.
Yeah, kind of just your way in.
Yeah, so have ways to constantly go after him. And Hakuho almost by himself, but he's gonna have
early Spirit Refuge, but a very nice taunt through. They bring powerOfEvil in. Hakuho buys a bit more time, gets the shield down, does not have enough Spirit's Refuge. Oh, 1, 2, the hits come in. The flash is held, but the heal is used. Akaadian just gets out alive. You might have even taken a live there, but the turret was pretty heated up.
Don't risk it.
Stopwatches, exactly.
Exactly, don't risk it. This will get them first turret at almost 9 minutes here, and they're trying to make a counterplay on the top side, but Zig may absorb that pressure. We'll see how he plays this one out.
This is the job of Zig, to absorb pressure on the top side for OpTic. A few shots here and there. It's a big wave. He's trying to get tactical sweeps down to clean it.
They're trying to get transform on solo.
Teleport coming in from LemonNation as he switched out on that earlier. And they will be able to save the turret, but also a little map control. How do they start to use it?
He completed it too, so he can help with like the wave clear and help with the warding up and kind of track LirA. So I don't expect this turret to go down in response. That'll be a free turret on the bottom side for OpTic as they get that first turret unanswered.
Nice little cheeky ward from LirA as soon as the Scryer's Bloom passed over that area. And we'll see this again on the bot side. Spirit's Refuge wears off, and they're in.
Yeah, because Apollo had to take a staggered back, it means that he's not there, which kind of helps him in this situation, because that's just a full-on dive. powerOfEvil now has aggro after Akaadian at it. He stopwatches on this last shot there, swaps to Akaadian, who then stopwatches right there too, and that most likely would have killed him based on the damage the last shot did.
Looking at it again, it was pretty heated, if you will. 2-0 now. OpTic with a nice dive on the bot lane. They did kind of figure out when Apollo would go back due to the roaming of Hakuho and low mana. So now they look to play maybe towards mid, maybe towards top. Akaadian takes himself towards the mid lane to make sure Febiven doesn't clear too much. Zig's now in a 2v1, but actually doing quite well with that shield he's getting.
I mean, Zig, back when he was kind of like the most improved player of the split, we were talking about him about a year ago. It was mostly because of the fact that he absorbed pressure so well, and he really didn't give his opponents much. It was never because he was like a big mechanical god or anything like that. It was because he knew what to do relative to his team, and that was back when he was on Phoenix 1 with Arrow. And when you're able to just kind of absorb pressure and they're coming for you on the top side of the map, that means that Arrow, this guy who likes to play for the late game, he isn't getting ganked, and he gets to scale up, and you really are contributing to how the team is playing to their win condition. And so you see there, even though Cassiopeia and the Kha'Zix could have been coming for him, he's still playing far enough back, sees the turret like he should, and doesn't take the risk at all.
Still, it's a very nice fly under the radar thing here for Arrow.
Yeah.
There's always Zig kind of being on the Scion on the front line, something that was disrupting, and you had Arrow, piercing Arrow, on Varus, on the back. And then you'd be like, wait a minute, this guy is huge. They're doing a great job around the map and kind of keeping that chemistry going.
Yeah, and that was back when he got the MVP in spring last year. Now we'll see what they do right now on OpTic's side, because they have that Rift Herald. They trade it for the Drake, but this Rift Herald should turn into a mid turret for them. And in terms of CS across the map, it's really just been that bottom lane that's been going well for OpTic, whereas their top lane is behind because of the range matchup. And then the Galio is behind because Febiven is playing this well, but also the counter matchup for himself. Which kind of lends itself to the reason OpTic played to the bottom side of the map, was that's their one winning matchup.
Yeah. Don't want to bring too much pressure towards Zig, allow him to play a lane with Camille. He'll be a nuisance later in the split push. But still, as we said, absorbing pressure on his own. Allow it to just happen and bring it to the rest of the map. Akaadian towards the top side. He's going to deliver the blue buff over here and they start to get a little more control. And LemonNation starts to get some encroaching wards in the jungle.
powerOfEvil will get this blue buff for himself.
Merc tread, but is getting a little bit of AP for him. Sorry, not AP yet, but
all right.
magic resistance at the moment.
I'm expecting the Rift Herald within the next minute here, whether it's mid or it's top side. Arrow is shoving top. Oh, fight on the bottom side of this.
Everybody owns one side of the jungle. Zig's trying to hang out in the own side of Clutch.
They're gonna go
Look
top.
at all that vision, and yeah, why not? OpTic owns the top side, and that's where they will pressure. A back from Apollo as well. They're not going to continue to push this wave on the bot side.
They're going in. They're going to try to get solo here.
Huge. Up, down, all around, getting knocked back and forth as Hakuho tries to enter the fight, but he might have just entered the frying pan. Solo goes down. They got the chase. The Winter's Bite hits a few more, but it does not connect from the Renslow as well. Can they retreat from the fight? They've gotten themselves in a little deep, and the focus wasn't on the turret.
Yep, it was just to get that kill onto Solo. They get the flash out of him, but they blow a heal and flash of their own to do so, whereas LirA just clears mid lane.
Fans feeling good. Start of the cheer as OpTic is now controlling Clutch Gaming's side of the map, and LirA walks right into a full team of OpTic in his own jungle.
And now he uses the Rift Herald to help push down this mid turret. There's no jungler on the field. Cassiopeia would have to wave clear this, but with 4 people strong, this means they get to shove bottom and mid for OpTic, and OpTic are showing, you know, a different side of them than that late game team, play for the late game, the Gathering Storm team that's kind of been picking up 2 wins here or there.
Keeping things active all across the map and not just being okay with one. I wonder how this would have played out if Apollo kept pushing that bot lane, but still, OpTic comes up with a few kills and they would have had that damage on mid anyways.
Yeah, but they don't get that Rift Herald to take the turret, so they don't open the map up completely, and Febiven gets to keep this going. And as we can see, that turret is pretty close to going down on the side of both teams. But right here, OpTic,
Top fight.
they make sure nobody's there, LemonNation's pathing through, and Arrow even uses the Q to just get himself further towards that right side to cut off Solo's retreat. He heals to back up and drop turret aggro, and then they get the flash out of Solo, but he's already dead. And then Hakuho, looks like there's a call there on whether or not they should go, and it's the retreat. It's the conservative call there from OpTic, because there were 4 stacks of the Sejuani passive on the Shen, and Akaadian could have easily pressed the E key and stunned him.
Definitely keeping a good focus on what's happening. Not getting too ahead of themselves. Something very easy once you are in the lead. You feel like everything's going your way. Still got to remember things can go wrong, especially only 15 minutes into the game. Core items are starting to be hit. There's the Abyssal Mask onto powerOfEvil. You can stand up in these fights a little bit stronger. Yeah. A little AT to start with the ability tome right behind it.
Yeah, it helps him with the matchup up against Cassiopeia. Merc treads into the Abyssal Mask, ends up giving powerOfEvil 135 magic resistance. And remember, Galio's W scales with magic resistance, and also his damage output from his passive scales with magic resistance. Magic resistance on top of it.
Scaling!
So the magic resist helps him both offensively and defensively. There we go.
I like it. I follow. Sure, everybody is there. He is going to be a tanky man with a little bit of damage is what we're saying. 103, same thing as Arrow as they continue to keep the pressure on. Wards are still all the way through the bottom of OpTic, so you can see Solo getting a little bit of help, his vision as he gets the pressure up. But Clutch Gaming just has to make the right decision on the other side of the map. It's not about Solo right now. It's if they can defend the pressure from these 4 members of OpTic.
Yeah, and right now OpTic are trying to get this mid turret by going top and mid constantly. They don't have really any wards on the bottom side, and Zig is just kind of there to farm up. But that Ocean Drake will be up in a minute, and we might see OpTic either go for a quick play here to get one of these 2 objectives between these 2 top lanes and the mid lane, or they're just going to swap their wards and go to the bottom side and swap their lanes after one more push.
Frozen Mallet making things a little easier for Solo. Getting the face of Zig harder now, kind of be a bit of a nuisance, and their wards have died off. They're trying to take control and stop that snowball towards the top side of the map, replacing pink wards with just a few of those vision wards that Solo's trying to get for himself, along with the team's alterations. Apollo clearing up on the bot side, not having his game as yesterday. Stealing Barons.
Yeah.
Still the option, though, but I don't know if OpTic's going to give him that just yet. They're so full control of the game. Why chance of Barons?
Yeah, has to get to that scaling point, has to get a few items, especially in this Kalista matchup where she just bullies pretty much every laner. It's one of the reasons Kalista was banned throughout all of last year, pretty much. They finally get that middle turret, and the Ocean Drake is coming up, so you can see they swap to the bottom side, and it looks like Apollo's just going to fast push top instead of contesting here. But I think they... Okay, Shen had to get away and taunt away. Interesting. Looks like Arrow's going to go to the top side to pick up the farm. Farm is more important than an Ocean Drake at this point. Or is it?
Maybe. They're all considering. This is the decision. When there's nothing to really do and all the waves are equaled out, you can see kind of maybe this, maybe that. We definitely have some wards to place or clear. They have 3 pink wards on them right now, but maybe not secure enough to place and protect. Just inside the edge of the brush, thought he might have missed. Oh, they aggro out the Ocean Drake. Looks like they will go down for it after all.
Yep, Trinity Force completed.
Oh, Fate's call.
Really good. TP.
Ooh, nice taunt out. That's the hit-o though for Zig. The ward was in the Wolf camp, and now they're going to be taking down Apollo immediately. Catching the Ezreal is huge. Solo! The kite chase, 4-man Gnar swipe into the back of the mid turret, but it's not going to be enough. They stay towards the Wolf camp, and they won't be taking any turret damage. LirA on the side can't find a way in to deliver any damage, and they take down Apollo and Solo to take down Ocean.
That's the Thunderdome composition right there. Camille throws down the Hextech ultimatum, and then the hero's entrance immediately able to follow it up for powerOfEvil. Apollo's the target. It is not a fun game to be that Ezreal. I don't care if you can E away. The Hextech ultimatum will follow you through that. If she had just pointed it, clicked on you, and then it's good to go. Apollo actually was the one to walk up here. So as he retreats, he E's away and then flashes, but it doesn't matter. Shen ultimate comes down, but the damage is going to be too much. Ooh, and he still just gets blown up. Braum ultimate, another one to come through. But then, right there, Solo looked like he really wanted to get that ultimate off immediately.
Arrow's positioning.
Ooh, gets kind of bumped for a second, and then it takes him an extra one to kind of get everybody in a position to throw them against the wall. But they don't have Apollo. They don't have a big damage dealer. It's pretty much Febiven just at that point.
That bit of a bump actually gave Arrow time to move himself away from getting swept into the wall. He's just filled solo full of arrows.
And these are going to be very hard fights for LirA to navigate, right? I always talk about how Kha'Zix is one of the champions in this meta that some people play that really doesn't work in a lot of team compositions. He needs gank assistance from his laners to even get anything done early. And then in the late game, he needs bigger threats than him to really focus down on killing frontline, because he's not a frontline killer. He doesn't do enough damage to really kill backliners, but he has to find a way to threaten them. And especially when there are people who can defend, like the Braum or the Galio, it becomes even harder to get to those backliners and deal damage. So LirA navigating these fights is above challenger level of challenging in professional play here.
Gargoyle stone plate now for powerOfEvil. He kind of just squeaked that in there. There was an influx of gold that these guys got over the past few minutes. 6-0, 20 minutes in, and a 4K gold lead. We talked about kind of what these mid laners had in history, and they focused each other in the picks and bans, push each other to these selections. It seems like powerOfEvil and the team have just come out on top after being able to control the map itself.
What is going on in that bottom lane? Zig, like, CS'd some minions, and then he was like, okay, I'm gonna just let 3 of these die because solo could be here. Then he walked up and got greedy for him, and the Frozen Mallet Gnar came out. But the Camille is in a good spot now in this matchup, as long as the Gnar doesn't transform on her mid-fight.
Team Matt too just picked it up.
Yeah, you typically go Ravenous Hydra just so you can split push, but I do see Titanic Hydra as the tankier build that a lot of people opt into. There's powerOfEvil TPing back to mid though, and it looks like a death brush.
Akaadian, antsy-pantsy. Got everybody caught. Vision's there, and LirA knows they are in a dangerous spot if they try to stay in their own jungle. Fate's call. Who's the target? It is going to be Febiven. Does he turn around, get the petrifying gaze off? Gets a few members, but everyone's going in the bounce house as powerOfEvil enters the fight. They do lose arrow though.
They're gonna win
Not
this.
the greatest positioning, and it is going to be pushed back onto Akaadian. LirA looking for the next target to slow down and Hakuho to taunt, but they don't have it, and now they will say, let's 50-50 Baron if you really want to.
Well, there's no person to really contest it in terms of the 50, right? I would say this is like 80-20, maybe 90-10 with your smite up for LirA.
No ultimate to really get them in. LemonNation can't do much. Glacial Fisher's not even up for himself to get the crowd control there. And doing his damnedest, powerOfEvil tries to stay alive for as long as he can, saying, how much can Baron damage Clutch Gaming? Can Zig put anything in? He's got to put his entire body in if he wants to do that. And it's too dangerous. What a turnaround. It was just 6-0, now 6-3, and Clutch Gaming get Baron.
Clutch Gaming, I feel like this name becomes more and more apt for them because their comebacks and coming in clutch when it matters, it's
Here it is.
getting a little bit ridiculous.
It's
right
almost
here.
like they had a little, just enough, I should say, to assess the fight.
Yeah, Febiven, watch this, because what happens is the Q misses, so he actually doesn't get stunned here when he has 3 stacks afterwards. Cleanses, flashes away, so he has to burn it a little bit later. But right there, that was huge, where they were able to get away, have LirA come in from the flank, and that's one of those fights I was talking about where having the Kha'Zix navigate it, he has to have somebody who's a bigger threat than him pull everybody in, and then he gets to kind of go after people, where Apollo was able to kind of snipe down Arrow.
Huge as well. LemonNation, even with the shield up, just kind of point of origin, if you will. He was a little too close to Febiven. Petrifying Gaze just behind. So many things went in favor of Clutch there, and really it plays into the favor of next fights for them.
And that was a fight that OpTic were looking for. Arrow popped the ulti to throw in LemonNation, but there was no teleport from Zig. He didn't have it up, whereas Solo, I believe, had teleport and even had the roam advantage. So it was one that you didn't get the Camille combo off because she wasn't even there and she couldn't be there.
I like the audacity here from OpTic, still inside the jungle, still trying to get initiations, but not catching any. It's just giving Clutch Gaming the awareness of where OpTic is. They have to be careful on these initiations as well.
Yeah, and being careful, you can see that Zig's build, it's not going to go for the Ravenous Hydra. It's the Titanic Hydra that'll come out here for him. Or he's going, straight for Asterix, but I feel like it's the Titanic Hydra build that's coming out here, which makes a lot of sense if he's going to be team fighting. The Ravenous Hydra is more for split push versus the Gnar, where you take some damage, then you heal it all up. But this one is more for, I'm diving in, I don't want to get instantaneously destroyed by the enemy team, so I'll have a little bit more HP in the tank. And I expect Asterix afterwards with possibly a Guardian Angel to back it up. I mean, maybe even an Adaptive Helm against this team that has a Cassiopeia.
Good. Febiven is kind of standing strong, even though he's being targeted. Saracen Grace is also finished, so he gets some more little survivability here cleanse is just about to be up with Flash a little bit later. powerOfEvil and Braum heading towards mid as you get a final clear from Arrow in the bot lane. It looks like they've somewhat set themselves up to prepare for a fight here if they need to.
And the more I'm looking at this from powerOfEvil, when we discussed in Champion Select Riv, where the damage of this OpTic composition is going to be mostly Arrow and a little bit Zig.
Right.
We see an Abyssal Mask followed by a Gargoyle Stone Plate. There's not a lot of AP on powerOfEvil. He's not an AP threat really at this point. He's more about just soaking damage and tanking. But right now, as this Mountain Dragon looks like the next point of contention, we're going to see a fight here. We'll see if OpTic's damage can actually match up.
LirA as well, a little happier to stand on the front line now that a Guardian Angel is finished up for him. He can be a lot more of a nuisance. The focus has been to take him out very quick if the situation arises, and now they have to second guess that. But like you were saying, against this Galio, not building too much AP, when kind of does that armor spike point come for Clutch Gaming when it almost becomes too hard to fight them? They don't have too many members that just want to build straight armor. Yeah,
they don't really have people who will build straight armor, but it means that Apollo's Iceborne Gauntlet goes further, that the things like the Guardian Angel are going to mean even more, and then when Solo starts building his next item, which actually looks like he's going AP here, or I guess magic resistance, which is, I think, a little bit odd, because it would be mostly the Sejuani % HP.
Oh!
Apollo, you can't keep doing this!
Man is on a mission, and he completes it.
The Sun God? Nah, man, he's the god of thieves.
Nicely done. Gets himself a blue. Like you said, the Iceborne Gauntlet going to go farther while he can keep them off the team now as he spits out those Qs. Muramon has already finished up for him, so he's not worried about that. But for two blues to now be on clutch on these kind of machine gun mage in the middle and Apollo's mystic shots, they need to start doing that pressure. Getting pushed in a little bit still, however, their Baron wears off and OpTic knows they can control the lane
Galio.
Hextech ultimatum goes down, gets himself just outside of some danger. He'll coming from Hakuho, but LirA and the rest of the team are already on that side of the map. They got to be very careful what their initiation is here and how deep they're going to go. powerOfEvil says we're still going Arrow. Second guess is this. Pulls in the Fate's Call very early to hit the back line, but now they have to assess. Have they thrown LemonNation in too far? And they have. He goes down. The Glacial Prison in the end, they're kind of using things they would still use to defend here as they leave.
They're throwing so much there in like desperation. Clutch Gaming definitely more on the same page here, and OpTic, you can see flailing a bit when they are once taking these last two fights that we've seen. Watch this again, because Zig goes in, and this is just a full commitment onto the Gnar. He gets the Galio ultimate, but the Shen ultimate from Hakuho is enough there. The flash to chase, but then the E from Zig, that's going to be on cooldown now as he gets exhausted, and LirA is just looking to hunt him down. You can see LirA cloaks, even though he gets stopped and taunted, Zig still walks back up, gets picked off there by LirA instead of fully retreating, and then LemonNation gets thrown in, throws a Glacial Fissure. These are the ones where you're like, man, I hit a 4-man Glacial Fissure. Man, look at this Sejuani ult. It's going to slow everyone. It's like, you don't have the damage. We just saw there that the Galio is not enough damage on his own, plus a little bit from that Camille, who's not even at that 2-item spike yet. It's just not enough from OpTic. They really do need Arrow in these fights for a long time, but Clutch Gaming, they're getting more resists on top of their items and going to be, honestly, just a higher damage composition for Clutch. So OpTic really needs to take long fights.
Absolutely. If they kept LemonNation, or I should say if he kept himself, Fate's Call is up to that support once he gets pulled in. If he kept himself in a closer position, Arrow stays in with a lot more attacks in that fight. Doesn't have to push himself up. Now, with that buddy system, Sejuani and Braum just hip to hip there with Arrow now. His flash still up, so he can get himself to safety in his plays along with the Quicksilver Sash. Both of those bot laners now have.
Yeah, and now we have a Morellonomicon completed for powerOfEvil, and he swapped over to Ghost from Teleport. So yeah, his seal has been there for a little bit, but it's still, he's getting that point now where the AP is going to start mattering for him, and he will become an AP threat. But I wonder how much more he's going to get here, because this is not like a Roa or anything like that that's stacked up, plus a Morello. This is just that flat Morello AP plus a little bit from the Dark Seal. So I do want to see how much he's doing now, because the Galio was changed to have better AP ratios and a little bit less in the base damage department. Baron up in 5 seconds, so you can see OpTic are kind of posturing for it. And now they're trying to have a fight where all 5 of them are there, but Clutch are just a little bit stronger now with that gold lead.
Well, they know they have Zig's jump split. They can get into this fight just a little bit. Akaadian has Febiven in his eyes. Here comes the hero's entrance. They're going to get a great kite out of this. Apollo and Febiven to the backside. And it's Solo and LirA now looking to do some damage. Oh, Apollo over the wall right in the face of LemonNation. He just came up from going down. Is the swing the wallet? Oh, no! Gets himself taken down.
Oh, he sold him out. Arrow gets knocked back in with the blast cone and gets taken down there. And that's going to be Barrett for clutch.
The things that cannot happen are happening right now for OpTic. Sir Clutch Gaming is very happy about this. The amount of kind of resources they're getting out of OpTic in these fights are enough for them to initiate. And that one was basically getting Zig to be just about 1,000 range away from the fight.
Yeah, and that was one where they pushed Zig out, and then they wanted Febiven. This Cassiopeia just kites backwards. I mean, he's got a Seraph's Embrace, he's got Flash, he's got Cleanse, and I don't even think they get much out of him here. Let's watch this right here. Doesn't get the stack up completely. Hakuho with a great taunt to prevent it. He doesn't have to blow any of his summoner spells, and they were reaching for him. And now he gets to come back through the fight and do it again. And right here, they finally found him.
Oh, is he gonna go down 6 alive? Oh, he goes down. Actually, Hextech Ultimatum is not enough for the shield. It is torn through by Febiven, and now they're gonna take down LemonNation consecutively up, consecutively down. He is not having a great end of the game here at 0-3-5. 6-9. Remember, it was 6-0 just a few minutes ago as Clutch Gaming starts to make quick work of the map. 31 seconds on to Zig as they are gonna look for some Nexus turrets. The waves on the sides aren't pushing in. They have a focus.
Exactly, they have a decent amount of damage here onto these turrets. They're gonna keep pushing. 20 seconds on Zig being back up. They're gonna try to end right here. Clutcher looking for that 2-0.
LirA staying in the front. powerOfEvil in a bad spot. He could get the taunt in that stops the damage on the Nexus, but it's still the HP bars not being enough on either the OpTic members or the Nexus. 31 minutes in. Clutch Gaming look to put the final touches on the game, and the last few hits from Hakuho on the top side are going to be enough. Clutch Gaming find their first 2-0 win.
Another comeback for the team, off the team fighting and picking the better fights than OpTic.
Poised and thirsty Febiven as he takes a drink in mid lane, thinking a decent game, but probably an early game to work on there.
I mean, Febiven had a lane advantage pretty much the whole time for himself in terms of CS. There's just that one time that the roam got away from him by powerOfEvil, but with having 0 deaths on this Cassiopeia against a Galio, a Sejuani, and a Camille that will constantly try to dive you and Hextech Ultimatum you, Febiven played incredibly well.
Finding those fights, yeah. Props to Febiven for kiting, finding the positioning that kind of made the team that much more perturbed to want to go the extra inch that allowed the fight to turn again back into Clutch's favor. I think we saw at least 3 or 4 of those fights, which means that OpTic definitely had that lead. They had a control to start these, but it had to be turned around by Clutch, and it shows you how much those fights were kind of thought about by Clutch to say, we can't take it yet, and now it's ours.
Yeah, and OpTic took a few of those fights where they couldn't have everybody there, and it looked like Clutch kind of read their minds, said they want to fight, and they showed up with one more member a few times in a row, and it definitely turned the tables for them. And I'm looking at the damage in this game. I can't tell if this was a high damage game or a low damage game because everybody is about at the same damage for Clutch Gaming. Whereas when you look at the kind of damage graph for OpTic, it looks like it was a bit on the lower side for them, but high for some members. So it's all over the place right now, where you have Kalista doing almost the same damage as Sejuani, Braum doing almost the same damage as Camille.
Right.
It's like, really, this game was a little bit, I would say, a low damage for both teams. They were trying to take these fights when they could, but Clutch, even just looking at the graph at a glance, just had a little bit more damage. It's not a high damage game overall, though.
Yeah, it's funny how it works out because you're actually, like, in early game doing less damage with your items to lower damage champions, and then when Clutch got their items, they were huge, more health, more damage, and now we're winning, and they were able to crush basically 20 minutes on. We saw, you don't do a lot of things when it's 6-0, but then you come back 9-6. What a way to turn the game around. Let's send it down to Ovely and Clutch Gaming's Ninja in the bot lane.
Thanks, guys. Hakuho, congratulations again on a 2-0 victorious weekend. With this win, both of your games this weekend were comeback victories. How do you and your team maintain your mentality, your focus, and your composure in these games?
So they have an early game comp, and we know we're playing for scaling. Like, we pick Ezreal, Cassio. We know we're going to win once it gets 20, 30 minutes if we can just team fight well. And it was the same for both games this weekend. We knew we could just team fight well, and we just played to hold.
Well, it worked out for you. And we're about halfway through the split right now. Coming into this split, what kind of expectations did you have for this team, and how does it compare to where you guys currently stand?
I think everybody on the team had high expectations, like at least playoffs level. So I think so far we're doing okay.
And looking forward to the playoffs just in a couple of weeks, how will you and Clutch secure a spot in playoffs?
I think we can work on our early game more, and even when we're playing scaling comps, we don't have to lose our turrets like that hard, because the dives were pretty bad for us, like it's happened yesterday and today. So I think we just need to look over our early game more and how like we can maybe avoid dying.
For you personally, what's your main focus that you're looking at for the rest of the split?
I'm just looking to improve as a team and focus more on communication.
Well, thank you so much, and congratulations again on your victory. And to wrap up the day, let's hear it from the guys at the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much, Avli. Clutch Gaming with a 2-0 week. They'll be happy for that. But, guys, I'm going to need some help understanding this one because it looked like an entirely new OpTic Gaming for the first 20 minutes of that game. And then it all fell to pieces.
Yeah, you can be happy about the 2-0, but don't watch these segments because we're going to blast them a little bit here. The OpTic comp, I don't know how Clutch Gaming lets them get this. 2 winning early game side lanes with a Galio basically means that you should expect to get blown up. You heard Hakuho saying there, we need to stop losing turrets this quickly, but the draft doesn't make it that much easier.
Yeah, Kalista pushing lane, super advantaged.
Right.
Camille should be very advantaged into the Gnar, and it's very hard to shut down a Galio who can then augment those side lanes. So the early game kind of should go the way it does, and the added tweak here is that we haven't seen Zig actually win many lanes, so it's great that they had the Galio for it. But even just watching this first dive, this is what OpTic needs to do. They're playing it properly by doing that 4-man dive. What Clutch doesn't need to do is shift into 4 people when you're Apollo. Just run away when you see that you're
Right, sack the one.
Yeah, sack the one.
Huge mistake.
You can shoot your ult at the minion wave too if you're trying to save the
maybe
turret or
save the
something
turret.
like that. Chances are you don't, that's fine. But I like what OpTic's doing, like we said in the first 20 minutes of this game, where they give Zig a good matchup, but just like yesterday, they don't play to him at all. They're just kind of like, you know what, you're fine, Zig. You can lose this a little bit. We have a great comp here, and we're going to play around Arrow and Snowball with our 2 carries, which is what they were doing.
Exactly, and to let you into some of our conversations that were happening during the game, we were actually saying, wow, OpTic is really figuring it out.
Yes.
Like, they know that Zig can't win lanes, and normally Camille needs to split push, but literally all he needs to do is teleport in, get the ultimate down onto Squishy, so that Galio can ult, and they're actually going to win every fight, and they can run this play multiple times into eventually Baron, which is what we thought that was going to happen. You can see even a 4-man Gnar ultimate doesn't dissuade them from winning because they've already killed the damage dealer.
Right, so normally you're like, Camille into Gnar in a side lane, he should be killing that Gnar, and you can see why they feel like they need to make plays to win the game. They just generally lose lanes. They're negative 63 CSD at 20. So
Yeah, powerOfEvil said it himself, right? This team is good at kind of losing slowly within their lanes,
Exactly.
and then they do index on winning team fights later. But to your point, Jet, that looks like they're getting it. That replay at 18 minutes looks like they're getting it.
yeah, we were excited. We were ready to do this segment. We're like, they're figuring it out. Zig doesn't need to win the side lane, use the Camille Galio combo, and then everything comes off the wheel.
Everything falls apart. 21 minutes into the game, Clutch Gaming 2-0 in the mid lane. So again, this is just a minute later.
Look at them force. Look where Camille is. Look at the Camille doesn't have the teleport. Nothing can keep them in the Galio ultimate
Lemon
if you go
misses
for
the
it.
Q on a knocked up target, so lets Cassio kite further out, finally cleanses here, should be dead even with that horrible engage. You don't have the Camille, it's a 5v4. Just generally, as a rule, don't fight 4v5s if you don't need to, and especially since the Gnar was there. It wasn't like they forced them to
And with
teleport.
only one damage dealer, because your Camille's in the bot lane. You've got a Galio who's now building tank for some reason. Perhaps some criticism to be thrown there for the build itself. But yeah, an ill-advised team fight gives Clutch Gaming an advantage. They start taking Barons, and they're able to close it out.
I can understand if you force the fight and like, oh, we lost track of the TP cooldown, but the Gnar is standing in front of you when you pull that trigger. That is just a baffling fight to me. And then, like you said, because the Galio's building full tank, once you start losing these fights, you have no hope of winning them versus a Cassio Ezreal Gnar when you have that as your team comp.
Now let's look over at Clutch Gaming because they were, in a sense, gifted a win. I mean, even in that interview, you could see it from Hakuho that he knew that it wasn't necessary. Oh, we controlled that game from start to finish. He called out a few things that they could work on immediately following it. But a 4-4 team.
Yeah.
Does their record reflect their ability?
No. Resounding no. They could have been.
Okay.
They should be 2-6 at the end of this weekend. They should have lost to TSM. TSM gave up way too many neutral objectives for no reason. They should have lost this game, but OpTic can't get CS leads despite winning early game, and then they can't close the game out, so they win this one as well. It's not a good look.
I think there's a bit of a strange thing happening in the North American LCS. This week is where it's been pretty evident. Yes, it was kind of upset weekend, but I think the reason that I'm a little bit disappointed is I felt like a lot of the upsets were the teams that I thought had figured it out hadn't figured it out. And then the teams that had been struggling were then just kind of playing a little bit better, if not the same way, to then beat the teams who are now exposing their flaws. So there's still a lot of teams that are lacking the players to match the draft, or also just playing specifically to executable win conditions. And there was a lot of mistakes this week.
Why do we think that? I mean, I think the easy answer, when I answer my own question before I ask it, is the fact that we had the 41 roster moves, right? I think that's the easy thing to look at and say, well, I mean, clearly this season as compared to any other season, when you have the most roster moves across the offseason, then it naturally will take more time for any of these teams to rise to that level, that cream of the crop, where we're ready to say, oh, can't wait to see them on the international stage. Because I'm not sure I feel that way about many of the teams in the North American LCS right now.
And I agree with that. I think the added factor for all of this is normally when you have that many roster changes, you have a lot of rookies. And a lot of times rookies are picked up to teams because they go into a team and everyone really loves the way they play with that guy. He is a fit for their style, and the team is going to have more cohesion early. What happened this year is they're all veterans. So all of these players have ways they've played the game for 3 years already, and they can't change it in 2 months. So I think it's a much slower process to find cohesion with teams full of veterans. We had, 3 rookies at the start of the season, and we've seen a few more. We saw one come in today.
Yeah, with some subs and Academy League players, you're getting a couple more, but it is largely a veteran league, and so there can be maybe some rigidity in being able to circle habits and all conform to a single play style.
That, as well as the fact that all the top teams also had massive roster moves. It's no surprise to see the bottom teams changing everything up, but TSM changing out 3 players, C9 changing out 2, CLG changing out 2, with one of them being Afro move, and Immortals having a lot of their players end up on Team Liquid, but a new org. Like, there's so much difference, not just in the bottom where we're used to seeing, but in the top as well.
All righty, that's going to put a capper on this game.